Blades of Vengeance is an obscure little action-adventure game released on the Genesis in 1993, and one that I always have to double-check in my head I'm saying correctly. Thanks a lot, Blades of Steel. You take your pick of one of 3 characters, each with their own varying strength, defense, and mobility, who are actually just mercenaries for this floating head in the sky the game refers to as the Master, and set out to defeat the evil Mannix and Dark Lady who have taken over the realm. Now, you may see that EA logo and cringe a little bit, but the game was actually developed by what at the time was Beam Software, who created the cult classic Nightshade, Terminator 2 the arcade game, and Super Smash TV, just to name a few. So despite it saying Electronic Arts at the top, there is actually some depth to this game and it has great potential, though there are a few things about Blades of Vengeance that make it almost unbearable right from the start. Let's dole out the praise first. The character sprites are large and in charge and have a commanding presence. All of their attack animations carry weight behind them and look really good too. When you give a stronger overhead swing with the Warrior or the Amazon, you can almost feel it in the controller. Just as a side note, the Wizard does not have a separate animation for his up B attack, but it still does more damage than a regular attack, so make sure to get on that. The enemies in the game all look pretty good too, though you can't say much about a frickin' spider except that I hate them, in this game and in every game. I just run in the opposite direction when I see something crawling on the ground and jumping at me. They're far less imposing though when you realize that you press down to block. If you don't remember to do that, you're gonna have a bad time. As far as the rest of the controls go, they're all pretty solid too. You have a really healthy jump at your disposal, and movement feels really good. I can't say that I ever really blame the controls on me dying, it's usually something else stupid that I do. Acoustically, the game is pretty good too. Some tunes might be forgettable, but for the most part, the music is more captivating than not, and lends to whatever environment you're in pretty nicely. The game also rewards exploration, as there are hidden paths and treasures scattered all about the stages. Making sure to explore everywhere and gather as much as you can is going to be integral to your survival, because after every world you will visit a shop where you can buy more items to help you out, including extra lives and an armor or weapon upgrade. That is, if you didn't spend all your silver on health potions like me. Despite all that the game has to offer, you will most likely be seeing this screen a lot, and very quickly on your first play. Blades of Vengeance unfortunately suffers from what I said before are a few almost unbearable things, and most of them are beginner's traps. The first problem we have is right here. You got your 1-player and 2-player modes, but no option screen, and that means no adjusting the difficulty, continues, lives, or buttons in your favor. While we're here, let's talk about something really interesting though, the 2-player mode in this game. It functions unlike anything I've ever seen in that each player can move independently of one another throughout the level. That might not make sense, so here's what I mean. You both share the screen, but if one player pauses, the other player can still continue on. They will then switch who has paused and the other player can then catch up. Now I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty darn neat. Just imagine the strategic possibilities that opens up. It's also worth mentioning that the paused player will not take damage whether they are on or off the screen. At the start, this first level doesn't seem too bad, but then it starts to get crappy real quick, and every time you take damage it just feels like a cheap shot. After just a couple of easy enemies, we're greeted with a moving platform over hot lava, and if you don't know to stay on that rock, you're probably going to fall into the lava and have a hard time catching up. If you do manage to stay on and survive, you then get shot up into the sky unexpectedly. Well, at least we got some treasure out of it. Suffering knockback isn't the only crappy thing involving damage. You also take damage if you fall from too great a height. And I'm talking a lot of damage. If you're going to do that much damage to me, you might as well just do the humane thing and kill me. Enemies also spawn quickly in some areas, which means you'll end up just walking into them and taking damage like that. Or you could walk into them after realizing that enemies of the same type sometimes take a different amount of hits to kill. Enemies can also sometimes spawn or respawn behind you and catch you off guard. And are there really going to be secrets in this game that I have to be suicidal to find? One last problem plaguing this game is that there are unnecessary blind jumps and leaps of faith due to the lack of scope of the screen. Thank goodness you have a scroll command to move the level down, though having to use it for such a simple descent seems ridiculous. So because of these things, this is how a playing of Blades of Vengeance typically went for me. I fire the game up, to be a little excited to play it, see the cool graphics and hear the cool music, pick my character, start off on the first level and then usually die in a bunch of stupid ways that catch me off guard, see the game over screen just within moments of starting up and say, fuck it, this game sucks. And that's what got me thinking finally. Does this game suck? Or do I just suck at it? Well, recently while going through my games, I once again saw the case for Blades of Vengeance and thought to myself, not this time, you son of a bitch. This time, with all my accrued gaming knowledge and newfound inspiration, I took on the game and sought to see how far I could really get. The main difference being that I now know this is not your typical beat-em-up game like Streets of Rage or Golden Axe, and not your typical platformer like Ninja Gaiden or Shadow Dancer. Blades of Vengeance is a game that rewards those who employ patience and explore around, and punishes those who do not. So with a bit more patience and a steady hand, I start to make it into new territory for me in this game, and now that I'm getting into a rhythm and realizing what this game is all about, I'm really starting to enjoy it. This was a game once again that I picked out myself as a kid, and I always wanted nothing more than to enjoy playing Blades of Vengeance. And I finally did, because you know what? Even though I see this game over screen after a tough boss I just can't contend with, for the first time since I've had it in 1993, it doesn't feel like an insult to see it. I put up a good fight, but in the end, Blades of Vengeance put up a better one. Before I set out to right this wrong and answer these questions for myself about the game, Blades of Vengeance was a game that came with a meh recommendation from me. Maybe a 6 out of 10 I would give it. But now that I've experienced Blades of Vengeance for what it truly is, I'd say it's better than that, and deserves your attention if you're in the mood to play a medieval side-scrolling action game. Especially if you have a buddy to share it with for its very interesting and unusual 2-player co-op mode. To think that I went all these years without fully appreciating this game just because I died too quickly. Lesson learned.
You lack a discipline!
No, I don't lack a discipline. I'm a little better than everyone else here.